The last time I ironed a shirt was the morning she told me I'd gotten too predictable. I remember it because I'd scorched the collar. It left this faint brown line right where my neck would go, and I wore it anyway. She didn't notice. She was too busy laughing at something on her phone while pouring oat milk into her coffee. That was 6 weeks ago. I haven't worn that shirt since, but I haven't thrown it out either. My name's Merrick. Weird, I know. My mom was a literature professor obsessed with obscure medieval names. I'm 42, work in IT procurement for a healthcare chain, and I used to think my life was boring in a good way. I like slow Saturdays, grocery lists, microwave popcorn during true crime documentaries. I liked being the guy who kept the gas tank full and the Wi-Fi bill paid on time. But what I didn't like, what I never saw coming, was how invisible I'd become to Callie, my wife of 11 years. She'd always had this glow. People noticed her when she walked into her room. I used to be proud of that. She made me feel like I'd won some impossible lottery. But in the past year, that glow felt like it had turned away from me, like sunlight pouring through a window that no longer faced my side of the house. That night, the night it all really began, I was cleaning up after dinner. She said she was going to meet Trina and Deb at a new bar they found on Instagram. Something with a rooftop and live music. I wasn't invited. She barely looked up from her mirror when I asked if she wanted a ride. Her kiss goodbye was so light it felt like someone else's air. I watched from our upstairs window as she pulled away in her car, and for the first time in years, I didn't turn on the TV. I just stood there. The silence was so thick I could hear the soft buzz of the fridge downstairs. Something in my chest felt unsettled. So I opened my laptop and clicked on the folder I'd been too scared to touch for weeks. Unknown caller, voicemails. You see, 3 weeks earlier, I'd received a voicemail from a blocked number. A man's voice. Calm. Low. Too casual. Hey Callie, same hotel next Friday? Let me know if your husband's out again. Last time was unforgettable. Then a chuckle. Then the click. I listened to that voicemail 32 times. I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready to hear what she'd say, or worse, what she wouldn't deny. Instead, I started collecting details. Call logs. Lyft receipts. I even installed an app that mirrored her phone notifications to a burner I kept locked in my desk drawer. That night, while she laughed somewhere over gin and tonic under string lights, I waited for the ping. At 9:44 p.m., it came. A message from someone named Bo. Just one line. Tonight felt different. Let's not wait a week. I stared at it. My throat went dry. Then I did something I'd never done before. I replied, "She's with her husband tonight. Don't text again." I hit send. Then I stared out the window again, my reflection barely visible in the black glass. I stood there like that for nearly an hour, until I heard the back door unlock. She came in humming. No mention of Trina or Deb. No lipstick smudged. Not a hair out of place. Just a smile that didn't match the tone in her eyes. "Hey," she said. "You okay?" I nodded. "You." She shrugged, yawned, and said something about being tired. As she walked past me and up the stairs, her phone buzzed again. She didn't check it, but I did. And that was the moment I decided to set everything in motion. Not with yelling, not with threats, but with a single message that would reach her when she least expected it. At the bar, in front of everyone, when she laughed. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay next to her, listening to her slow, even breathing, thinking how strange it was that someone could sleep so soundly with this much destruction just an inch away from their face. The room was dark, but my thoughts weren't. They ran in loops, angry, aching loops. I thought about the way she always used to hold my hand during movies. About the time she cried when I surprised her with that cabin in Vermont. About the way her voice used to change when she said my name. None of that had been real recently. And maybe none of it ever was. By 3:17 a.m., I was downstairs at the kitchen table, my laptop open, a legal pad full of timelines and text logs. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning clarity. Because if I confronted her, she'd lie. That's who she had become. A mirror with fog on it. I needed to wipe it clean. I took the first real step that morning. I called in sick. Not because I was sick, but because I was finally awake. She left for work around 7:15. She kissed me on the cheek like everything was fine. Maybe for her, it was. She had her little double life. Her beau. Her rooftop lies. And a husband she thought was too dull, too routine, too clueless to ever notice. I spent the next few hours making moves. I bought a burner phone with cash. Synced it to the fake number Bo had been texting. I added a new contact under the name Jenna, a name I'd noticed in several past message threads. According to the old texts, she was a friend he flirted with but never got anywhere with. Perfect. At 12:46 p.m., Jenna texted him. You ever wonder if she's just using you too? He replied almost immediately. Who is this? I didn't answer. Not right away. I waited. Played it cool. Let his curiosity marinate. Then, 30 minutes later. Someone who's been watching for a while. He tried calling. Twice. I let it ring. Then texted again. You're not the only one she's laughing with. But you already knew that, didn't you? By 3 p.m., he was unraveling. At 4:12 p.m., I received a screen recording from him. Without being asked, it showed a message thread between him and Callie. Dozens of flirty lines. Photos. Hotel reservations. Even a voice memo of her whispering things I never imagined she'd say to another man. But the worst part wasn't what she said. It was the tone in her voice. Excited. Alive. Like the version of her I hadn't seen in years. When she got home that evening, I watched her walk into the house like she hadn't detonated our marriage with both hands. She looked radiant, almost glowing. Maybe she'd had an easy day. Or maybe that's just what freedom looked like when you thought your secrets were safe. She ordered sushi that night. We watched half an episode of a baking show while eating on the couch. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I wanted to ask her, right then, do you know how many lies your eyes are carrying? But I didn't. I just stared at the wall behind the TV, waiting. That Friday, she went out again. Same lie. Same place. Different dress. But this time, I followed her. Not secretly. Not from the shadows. I didn't hide in my car or behind some pole in the parking lot. I walked into the bar. I stood at the entrance for a full minute before anyone noticed. I saw her immediately. She was sitting at the bar with Beau. Not in a dark corner. Not tucked away. Out in the open. Like she didn't have a husband at home who once memorized the sound of her laughter. She was laughing. Hard. Until her phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen, expecting flotation. What she saw was a video. It was a recording of her, from 2 nights ago, sitting on our front porch, talking on the phone. She thought I was asleep. I wasn't. I'd slipped out with my camera and recorded everything. In that call, she told Beau that I was safe, boring, still thinks I go to yoga on Tuesdays. She said I was too blind to notice if I had dinner with another man wearing his shirt. The moment she saw it, she froze. Her smile collapsed. She stood up too fast, bumping into the woman next to her. Beau turned, confused. I slipped out before she could see me. I didn't need to witness the aftermath. That wasn't the point. I wanted her to know. I knew. And I wanted the cracks to start forming from the inside. Because this wasn't just about catching her. It was about watching the truth do what lies never could. Burn clean through. By the time I got back to my car, my hands were shaking. Not with fear. Not even rage. It was something deeper than that, like standing outside your own life, watching the whole thing unravel behind glass you can't break. I sat in the parking lot of the Copper Owl, watching the front entrance through the mirror. I waited 10 minutes. She never came out. Maybe she didn't know what to do. Or maybe she knew exactly what she'd done, and now had to figure out how to spin it into something survivable. I wasn't sure what her move would be, but I knew mine. I went home and started packing a bag. Not a dramatic, storm out with a suitcase kind of packing. Quiet. Methodical. I only took the essentials, 2 changes of clothes, laptop, charger, my grandfather's watch, and the burner phone with all the evidence. I didn't want her to see me unravel the way she had our marriage. I wanted her to walk into that quiet house and feel the absence, not just of a man, but of a witness. She got home close to midnight. I wasn't there, but I'd left a single note on the kitchen counter. Not a confrontation, just 5 words. You weren't careful enough. I turned off location sharing, turned off notifications, turned off the version of me she used to manipulate. I checked into a short-term rental across town under a different name. It wasn't glamorous, bare bulbs, cracked tiles, weak water pressure, but it was honest and quiet and mine. That night, I received 12 texts from her. First one, where are you? Then, are you okay? Followed by, Merrick, you're scaring me. What is this? Then she tried denial. If this is about the bar, I can explain. He was just being weird. I told him to back off. I didn't answer. 2 hours passed. Then came the confession, at least, the watered-down version. I messed up. I was lonely. It didn't mean anything. Please talk to me. I stared at that sentence for a long time. It didn't mean anything. Funny. That's what people say when they're trying to set fire to a house and pretend it was just a candle that tipped over. She called. I didn't pick up, and I didn't plan to. Not yet. Because it was never just about her cheating. It was about who she became while doing it. The lying. The gaslighting. The way she looked at me like I was a static channel on TV. But Bo, he didn't stay quiet either. The next morning, I woke up to a message on the burner. I don't know who you are, but if you think she's only been lying to you, think again. Attached was a voice memo. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, played it. It was Callie, laughing, whispering, talking to a third man. He asked her if she was going to do the husband trick again. She said, already got it in motion. You boys don't realize, he's like furniture. He doesn't even flinch. I paused the audio. For a moment, everything inside me stilled. Not out of shock anymore. Not even pain. It was relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. And I wasn't done. I texted Bo back. Meet me. 1 hour. Don't bring her. I didn't know if he'd show, but something told me he would. Because Callie hadn't just double-crossed me. She'd made a fool of him, too. And now he wanted the truth just as much as I did. I wasn't sure what Bo looked like until he walked into that diner. It was a Tuesday afternoon, cloudy and cold, the kind of day where the wind feels heavier than it should. I picked the place on purpose, a tired old spot tucked between an oil change garage and a closed-down bookstore. A place nobody who knew either of us would wander into. I sat in the back booth, sipping stale coffee, wondering if I was about to get punched or pulled into some bigger mess I couldn't control. He walked in at exactly 1 p.m. Tall, maybe late 30s. Designer coat. Perfect haircut. The kind of guy who looked like he always had the right kind of cologne but never waited in line for anything. His eyes scanned the room, paused on me. Then he walked over slowly and sat down across from me without saying a word. For a second, we just looked at each other, two strangers, same battlefield. Then he finally said, "You're Merrick, aren't you?" I nodded. He exhaled sharply, ran a hand through his hair. Well, damn. We didn't shake hands. We didn't order food. It wasn't that kind of meeting. He leaned in. So, how long have you known? I shrugged. Long enough to stop asking why. He gave a humorless laugh. Yeah, I passed that stage too. Then he said something I didn't expect. She told me you had a drinking problem. I blinked. What? Yeah, he continued. Said you were unstable. Said you used to yell. Said she stayed for the mortgage. I stared at him. My chest tightened, not from anger, but from disbelief. I hadn't touched alcohol in 15 years. I'd never raised my voice to her in my life. The idea that she'd painted me as some unstable addict just to justify what she was doing, that was worse than the cheating itself. It wasn't just betrayal. It was character assassination. He saw the look on my face and said quietly, I figured it was lies. Eventually. But at first, she made you sound like some monster. Said she was trapped. That you'd hurt yourself if she left. I nodded slowly, feeling something twist in my gut. That's her trick. She plays victim so well, she forgets she's not one. Then he leaned back and said, there's something else. He slid his phone across the table. A video. I tapped play. It was Callie, sitting in her car, talking on speakerphone. A third voice, a man. Older, maybe mid-50s. She was laughing, telling him she was lining them up, and that none of them knew about the fourth. The fourth. I looked up. There's another one? Bo nodded. Apparently, I wasn't even number 2. We sat in silence. 2 men. 1 woman. Multiple realities. What do you do with that? He shook his head. She's good. I'll give her that. Makes you feel chosen. Like you're the one exception. But she's not in love with anyone. She's addicted to the performance. And I realized he wasn't angry either. He was just tired. Like me. That's when I told him everything. The voice memos. The video in the bar. The burner phone. The message I sent. And when I finished, he just sat there for a long time, staring out the window. Then he asked, what's your end game? I looked down at the table. Not revenge. Just truth. Real truth. The kind that makes her stop spinning stories for once in her life. He nodded slowly. Then he stood up. I'll help. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because, he said, when someone burns the ground this thoroughly, the least we can do is leave a sign for the next poor fool who walks through. As he walked out, I realized something. I hadn't lost my mind. I hadn't lost control. I just stopped pretending. And the next time she laughed, the next time she tried to tell one of her little stories in public, in front of friends, in front of a crowd, I was going to be ready. Because this time, I wouldn't just break the illusion. I'd let her destroy it herself. I didn't go home that week. Not even close. I kept living out of the rented studio apartment with flickering lights and a leaky faucet. It smelled like old paint and microwaved noodles, but it was the only place that felt real anymore. That tiny room was where I stopped pretending my marriage had any air left in it. Callie called 7 times on Wednesday, 9 more on Thursday. By Friday, she switched to long-winded texts, some pleading, some manipulative, and some downright theatrical. "You're scaring me," she wrote. "I don't know what's gotten into you. Are you okay? I'm here if you want to talk." It was always about her. Her fear. Her comfort. Her version of the truth. Not once did she ask, "What did I do?" Or, "How can I fix this?" Because in her world, she was still in control of the narrative. But she had no idea what was coming. Bo and I had been texting almost daily since our meeting. We were building a digital portfolio, a timeline of her lies, cross-referenced with photos, dates, voice notes. I even had screenshots from when she once messaged all 3 of us on the same night, using the same recycled compliments. I'm not proud of it, but at one point, I found myself laughing. The kind of bitter laugh you let out when life stops making any moral sense. Bo had a friend who worked in events and helped organize private parties. That's when the idea came together. Callie's birthday was coming up. She always threw herself a party, rented space, live music, charcuterie boards, the whole curated Instagram aesthetic. This year, she'd already sent out invites before the fallout began, still pretending everything was fine. So Bo offered to help her coordinate it. Told her he wanted to make it special. Of course, she bought it. She loved being the center of the room more than she ever loved anyone in it. She didn't know he was working with me now, that I was the one who'd suggested the venue, that I'd created a slideshow. Yes, a slideshow. See, the thing about lies, they're loud when whispered, but silent when displayed in 1080p HD. The plan was simple. At the peak of the party, just after the cake, we'd connect the projector, play what looked like a sweet birthday video, and let the truth roll frame by frame. But 2 days before the party, something happened I never expected. I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. A woman named Danielle. She said she knew who I was and that she needed to talk. I ignored it at first. Then she sent me a photo. It was Callie, years younger, at what looked like a beach house, sitting on a guy's lap. Not Bo. Not me. Not even the other guy we'd found out about. I called her. Danielle's voice trembled on the line. "I'm sorry if this is weird, but you don't know who your wife really is." She told me she used to be Callie's best friend. Said they were inseparable back in college. Until something happened at a 4th of July party in Cape Cod. Callie had been dating a guy named James, rich, older, married. There was some kind of altercation. Police were involved. No charges stuck, but Danielle said Callie manipulated everything. Told James's wife it was harassment. Told the police it was consensual. Told Danielle that she'd done it to feel powerful. She paused, then added quietly she called it practice. Practice for marriage. Practice for control. I felt the back of my neck go cold. Then Danielle said, "I know you're planning something. Just be careful. When she breaks, she doesn't shatter. She scatters. And she always lands on someone else." After the call, I sat in silence for over an hour. I thought I'd reached the bottom of who Callie really was. But the ground just kept falling out from under me. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about identity. The person I'd built a life with didn't even exist. And now, I wasn't sure if I wanted revenge, closure, or simply distance from the wreckage. But the plan for the party still stood. And if there was anything left of the woman I once loved, she was going to see herself clearly for the first time in her life. Even if it broke her. Saturday arrived like thunder rolling in from a far-off field. I didn't sleep the night before. My mind was too full, pacing between memory and motive, between grief and justice. I kept staring at the USB drive Bo handed me, the one labeled, for Callie's big night. It held everything. A decade of deception compressed into 10 minutes of cold, undeniable truth. The party was being held at a rooftop venue downtown, a trendy space with glass railings, live-string trio, curated cocktails, and a rented photo moment wall with fake greenery spelling out Callie's year of growth. You couldn't make this stuff up. She still didn't know I was coming. She thought Bo had planned the whole night as a romantic gesture to win her back. That's how detached from reality she'd become. She believed she could still puppeteer people after burning every string to ash. I got there 15 minutes before cake time, just as planned. I wore a navy shirt, slacks. Nothing dramatic. Just clean and neutral. like someone attending a seminar. Bo met me by the staff elevator and handed me a glass of water. "You sure about this?" he asked. I nodded. She was never going to stop. But tonight, she will. We waited until the moment she stepped up near the cake. A ridiculous 5-tiered thing with gold flakes and edible pearls. She gave a short speech about self-love and healing and how this year was about new beginnings. The room applauded like sheep. No one had any idea. Then Bo stepped forward and clinked his glass. "Before we cut the cake," he said, his voice calm and clear, "Callie, I put together a short video. A little tribute. Hope you don't mind." She smiled. "Ah, really? That's..." The lights dimmed. The projector lit up. At first, it looked like your average birthday montage. Childhood photos. Old Polaroids. A short clip of her dancing at a wedding. Then it cut to a video of her sitting in her car, one of the recordings I had forwarded to Bo. She was on speakerphone, whispering to a man, "Merrick's working late again. I could probably swing by yours. Just text me the room number." Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone laughed awkwardly, thinking maybe it was some kind of skit. Callie's smile didn't fade at first. She looked confused, trying to play it off, glancing at Bo, at the screen, then back at the crowd. Then came the messages. Screenshots. Explicit. Degrading. Lined up like courtroom evidence, time-stamped, geo-tagged, side by side with receipts and her own selfies from different hotel bathrooms. She turned pale. People started whispering. Her cousin walked out. Someone dropped a glass. You could hear the tension crawling up the walls. Then the last video played. A short clip of her on the porch, her voice barely above a whisper. "He doesn't even matter anymore. He's like a faded photo I keep for insurance." Silence. Then the lights came back on. And she was standing there, shaking. For the first time in a decade, Callie had no story to spin. No facial expression rehearsed. No backup plan. Her lips moved, but no words came out. She looked around, realizing that not one person in that room was on her side anymore. Not even Bo. Especially not Bo. He didn't say a word. Just handed her the remote. "You can play your version now if you want. But no one's listening anymore." She looked at me, finally seeing me across the crowd. And that's when she broke. Not with screaming. Not with anger. With laughter. The kind of laughter that doesn't belong. Hollow. Desperate. Unstable. Like the sound of a building creaking before collapse. She stumbled backward into the table, knocking over the cake. Someone tried to help her. She slapped their hand away. Her voice cracked. "You people have no idea what I've been through." But no one believed her anymore. I walked past her without a word. Down the stairs. Into the cool night air. The wind hit my face like a baptism. I didn't look back. Because for the first time in years, I didn't have to wonder what she was thinking. Now the whole world knew. And she would never, ever laugh the same way again. The morning after the party, I sat in a coffee shop I'd never been to before. The kind with soft jazz playing overhead and little chalkboard signs with quotes about healing and gratitude. A woman 2 tables down was crying quietly into her latte. Nobody stared. Nobody offered help. We all just existed, separate, peaceful, a little broken in our own ways. It was the first time I'd felt completely weightless in years. No lies hanging above me like storm clouds. No fake morning texts. No wondering if the person beside me was really with me, or just waiting for their next excuse to leave. There was just quiet. Not the heavy kind I'd lived in before, but the kind that fills the room after something important has been said. I turned off my phone for most of the day. When I finally turned it back on that evening, there were 23 missed calls. All from Callie. A dozen texts. Some angry, some pleading. One just said, "I can't breathe. You ruined everything." That one made me pause. Not out of guilt, but out of interest. Because for once, she wasn't lying. I had ruined everything. Everything she built with manipulation and ego and charm. Everything that was fake. And it deserved to be ruined. There was also a voicemail from her mother. I didn't listen to it. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the draft of my divorce papers. I had started the process a week before the party. Quietly. With no shouting. No ultimatums. Just facts and documentation. And now, I was ready to finish it. But before I could send the final email, I got another message from Danielle, the woman who had warned me before the party. She had seen the video. Apparently, someone at the venue had recorded the moment everything went down. It had made its way online in some private group chat and was already circulating quietly. Not viral, but enough for people who knew Callie to see her real face. Danielle wrote, She was always going to destroy herself. You just gave her a mirror. That line stayed with me. Callie didn't text again for a few days. Then, suddenly, she showed up at the building where I'd been staying. How she found me, I still don't know. But she was there. In the lobby, mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She whispered, "Can we talk?" We sat in 2 chairs by the vending machine. I didn't invite her up. I didn't hug her. I just watched her unravel slowly. "I didn't mean for it to get like this," she said. "You were comfortable, safe, but I felt dead inside, and I wanted something that made me feel real again." I looked at her and said nothing. So she kept going. "I know I ruined it. I know I lied. I know I broke things you won't be able to fix. But Merrick, don't you ever miss who we were before it all went wrong?" She looked like she believed in that version of us, like she could pull it back from the ashes with just the right sentence. I finally spoke. "We didn't go wrong. You did. I stayed in the same place for years, holding space for a version of you that had already left the room. You didn't kill our marriage because you were lost. You killed it because you were bored and too entitled to be honest." That shut her up. She looked down at her hands like they might vanish if she stared long enough. Then she said, "I don't know who I am anymore." And I replied, "I do. You're the one who laughed at everything." Until the message came. She stood up without another word, walked out the glass door, didn't look back. That night, I slept for 10 hours straight. No dreams. No waking up with a knot in my chest. Just silence, the good kind. The kind you earn. And the next morning, I sent the divorce papers. Not out of anger. Not for revenge. But because healing sometimes looks like closing a door no one has the right to walk through again. It's been 6 months since the night her world collapsed. Sometimes it still feels unreal, like I lived through someone else's story. But then I hear a song we used to listen to. Or I walk past a restaurant where we once celebrated an anniversary. And I remember, no, that was my life. My marriage. My heart on the chopping block. And still, I don't hate her. I know that might surprise you, after everything she did. But hate is just another kind of tether. And the truth is, I cut that rope the night I walked away from her party without a single word. That was the final breath of something long dead. I live in a new place now. It's not big. Just a small rental near a lake, with creaky wood floors and windows that let in soft morning light. I get up early. I make coffee. I take quiet walks. There's a dog now, a rescue mutt named Baxter. He's missing part of his tail and looks like someone glued 3 breeds together, but he follows me like we've always known each other. A few weeks ago, I ran into Danielle again. We grabbed coffee. What started as a simple catch-up turned into a 2-hour conversation about books, music, mistakes, and second chances. No expectations. No agenda. Just 2 people who'd seen behind the curtain and chose not to stay bitter. She told me something that stuck with me. Healing isn't about rebuilding what broke. It's about realizing you were always whole without it. Callie, from what I hear, moved to a different city. Changed her number. Tried to reinvent herself. That's fine. I wish her peace, genuinely. I just no longer think it's my job to give it to her. And if you're wondering what I'd say if she ever showed up again, unannounced, trying to explain or apologize or find closure, I already have my answer. I'd say, thank you for ending it, so I could begin again. Because now, for the first time in my adult life, I'm not waiting for someone else to show up for me. I'm showing up for myself. And it turns out, that's more than enough. So if you're reading this, and you've been lied to, broken, discarded, laughed at behind your back, just know, your story doesn't end with the betrayal. That's just where the real one begins. You don't have to destroy them to heal. You just have to walk away and not look back. And when you do, the peace is so loud, it drowns everything else out.